The truth no one tells you. If you're an older man who still masturbates, I need you to hear this. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because no one ever tells you how it's quietly affecting you. Not just your body, but your confidence, your sensitivity, even your ability to connect. And I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to give you the truth most men never get. For over 30 years, I've helped men over 60 restore their energy, rebuild intimacy, and reconnect with a sense of strength they thought they'd lost. And in all that time, there's one issue that shows up again and again, but hardly ever gets talked about: the hidden risks of masturbation at this stage of life. Not because it's bad, but because how it's done makes all the difference. Most men see it in black and white. Either it's good for you or it's not. But the truth lives somewhere in the middle. Because yes, self-pleasure can support prostate health, help with circulation, boost testosterone, and relieve stress. But when done without awareness, without adjustment, it can start to chip away at your performance, your emotions, and even your hormones without you realizing. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 10 hidden risks of masturbation after 60 that most doctors simply never explain. And more importantly, I'll show you how to turn this private habit into something beneficial, a tool to improve blood flow, restore firmness, protect your prostate, and even deepen your relationships. You'll also hear about the 7-second technique I give my patients that naturally boosts drive and performance, without pills and without shame. But before we begin, do one quick thing. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. This channel is built specifically for men over 60 who want real answers and real solutions. No fluff, no nonsense. Now, let's get into the first risk. Because while some effects show up in the body, the real danger starts somewhere far more silent. Deep inside your day-to-day life. In the loneliness no one sees. In the patterns no one questions. It starts with something most men never realize is happening: social isolation. Risk number 1, social isolation. I remember a man, 67, retired high school teacher. Quiet, polite, the kind who carries a gentle weight in his eyes. Not from age, from absence. We talked for a few minutes, mostly small things. And then, in a low voice, he said something I'll never forget. "Doc, I haven't touched another person in months, but I still take care of things on my own." That bad. And in that moment, it hit me again. The real issue isn't the act. It's what the act is replacing. See, there's nothing wrong with self-pleasure. When done with awareness and care, it can absolutely be part of a healthy sexual life, even into your 70s, 80s, beyond. But what happens when it becomes your only outlet? When it shifts from a compliment to intimacy to a quiet substitute for it? This is where many older men unknowingly drift. The house gets quieter. Friends move or pass on. Romance, connection, even hugs, they become rare. And somewhere along the way, solo release becomes the one place you still feel something. A small comfort, a moment of relief. It's easy, it's safe, but slowly, without realizing, you stop reaching out. You stop dating. You stop calling. You stop hoping. You tell yourself, "I'm fine on my own." But beneath that independence is something else. A deepening canyon between you and the world. And masturbation, though physically harmless, starts to fill the emotional void, until the void becomes your new normal. The danger isn't in the act. The danger is in the silence it creates, in the way it lets us feel just enough to forget we've stopped feeling much at all. Because physical touch isn't just about sex, it's medicine. It keeps your testosterone active, your nervous system engaged, your spirit alive. And when you go too long without it, not just sex, but connection, closeness, being seen, your world shrinks. Not because of age, but because somewhere deep down, you stop believing you had anything left to offer. But let me tell you something clearly. You do. You still have warmth, humor, stories, presence. You still deserve to be touched, to laugh, to flirt, to be seen as a man, not just a patient, not just a pensioner. Reclaiming that doesn't require jumping back into dating or chasing youth. Sometimes it starts with a phone call, a walk with a neighbor, a cup of coffee with an old friend, a hello to someone new. Intimacy isn't just physical. It's human. It's emotional. It's the courage to believe that connection is still possible. Because it is. And if your private habit has quietly become your only companion, that's not weakness. That's a signal, a reminder that your life still holds more. and that you are still worthy of receiving it. Risk number 2, skin microlesions. He was in his early 70s. A proud man, well-groomed, sharp, with a soft voice that barely let on what was bothering him. But after a bit of hesitation, he finally leaned in and said, "Doc, there's been some irritation down there. And it's been happening more often lately." He looked almost ashamed, like he was too old to be asking these questions. But here's what I told him, and what I want every man over 60 to know. Nothing is embarrassing about this. Because the truth is, as we age, our skin changes, especially the skin in sensitive areas. It becomes thinner, less elastic, and slower to heal. That's just biology. And when a man continues to masturbate with the same pressure, speed, or friction he used in his younger years, the skin can't always keep up. Small tears, we call them microlesions, start to form. Most of the time, they're barely noticeable at first. Maybe a little sting afterward. Maybe some redness or sensitivity. Nothing alarming. But over time, these tiny injuries add up. Inflammation, irritation, even scarring. And ironically, the very thing you're doing for pleasure starts slowly reducing your sensitivity. It can even open the door to infections, especially in warm, moist environments where bacteria or fungi thrive. Now, here's the part that breaks my heart. Many men don't realize it's not their hormones, not their age, not some mysterious medical issue. It's simply that their technique hasn't evolved with their body, and no one ever taught them how to adjust. So let me say this clearly. Masturbation isn't supposed to hurt. If it does, your body isn't broken. Your approach just needs to change. Start by being gentle. You're not 25 anymore, and that's not a flaw. It's a reminder to treat yourself with care, not force. Use a high-quality, water-based lubricant. Not spit, not lotion, not petroleum jelly. Real lubrication reduces friction, protects the skin, and actually helps maintain sensitivity long-term. Slow down. Let go of the idea that you need to race toward release. Take your time. Feel more. Rush less. This part of life isn't about less pleasure. It's about better pleasure, deeper, wiser, more respectful of the man you've become. There's strength in adjusting. There's confidence in learning. And there's absolutely nothing weak or strange about changing how you touch yourself to fit where your body is today. If anything, it shows you care enough to listen. Because that's what real masculinity looks like at this stage. Not pushing through discomfort, but learning to honor your body. That's not shameful. That's powerful. Risk number 3, desensitization. He was 64, fit, mentally sharp, and still active in his work life. On the outside, everything seemed fine. But as he sat across from me, his shoulders dropped slightly and his voice turned quiet. "Doc," he said, "I can still finish on my own, but with my wife, it's like my body forgets what to do. I feel numb, like I'm there, but I'm not." And right there, in that moment, I knew he wasn't alone. This is something I see more often than people realize. And no, it's not always about low testosterone or blood flow issues. Sometimes it's something deeper, something more subtle, something I call quiet conditioning. Let me explain. When a man gets used to touching himself the exact same way, same grip, same pressure, same rhythm, same fantasy, same screen, day after day, year after year, his brain starts to associate pleasure with only that one specific pattern. It's like digging a trench, and every time you pour water, it flows the same way. Eventually, it forgets how to go anywhere else. That's called desensitization, and it shows up in ways that are hard to talk about. You can climax alone, but not with a partner. You need more intensity to feel the same response. You start to worry something is wrong with your body, your desire, your manhood. But it's not a moral failure. It's not about weakness. It's neurological conditioning. And the good news is, it can be untrained. Start by switching things up. Change your grip. Vary your rhythm. Try different positions. Instead of relying on screens or fantasy every time, experiment with memory or imagination. Give your nervous system new paths to explore. And above all, slow down. This isn't about performance. It's about presence. It's about letting pleasure unfold, not forcing it to happen. When you create new patterns, your brain wakes up. Your body starts to respond again, not just to stimulation, but to connection. I've seen men rebuild their intimacy, not by taking pills or buying products, but by simply learning to approach their pleasure with curiosity again. Gently, patiently, without pressure. Because your nervous system isn't broken. It's just been overtrained in one direction. And what it needs now is permission to change. So if you felt disconnected from your partner, or even from your own body, know this: it's not too late. Sensitivity can return. Excitement can return. You can return. All it takes is a willingness to listen to your body and retrain it one moment at a time. Risk number 4, masking erectile dysfunction. He came in late one afternoon, well-dressed, in good shape, early 60s. He told me he worked out 3 times a week and felt healthy overall. But something was bothering him. You could see it in the way he shifted in his seat. After a little back and forth, he finally opened up. I can still get hard when I'm alone, document. But with my wife, it just doesn't happen anymore. So I've kind of stopped trying. That hit me, not because he was broken, but because he was overlooking a warning sign that so many men miss. A quiet signal the body sends when something deeper is changing. See, most men think that if they can still perform alone, everything's okay. But solo arousal is usually simpler. It doesn't require as much emotional presence or physical effort. No pressure, no vulnerability, just routine. But what many don't realize is that the penis is like a window into your cardiovascular system. When blood flow weakens, when your hormones start dropping, when nerves become less responsive, your erections with a partner are often the first thing to suffer. And instead of investigating why, a lot of men avoid the issue. They stick to what's easy, masturbation, and convince themselves everything's fine. But the truth is, that can mask early erectile dysfunction. And that's risky, because ED isn't just about sex. It can be a red flag for heart disease, diabetes, or hormonal decline, all of which are treatable, but only if you catch them in time. That's why I tell every patient, if you've noticed changes in your performance, especially with a partner, if things aren't as firm, don't last as long, or feel different, don't wait. Don't ignore it. There's no shame in needing help. There's only danger in silence. The sooner we know what's going on inside your body, the sooner we can address it, naturally, holistically, and without jumping straight to prescriptions. Because this stage of life isn't about giving up. It's about tuning in, listening, responding before small issues become big ones. So if you've been quietly brushing it off, it's just stress, it's just age, maybe it's time to check in. Because masking the problem with solo habits doesn't make it go away. It only delays the healing you're fully capable of. You deserve a full life, in every sense, not just a private workaround. Risk number 5, nerve compression from poor posture. It started as a strange complaint. A man in his early 70s came to me describing a kind of dull, numb sensation around his groin. Not pain exactly, just a constant, low-level buzzing that had been growing more noticeable over the past few months. At first, he thought maybe it was blood flow or just aging nerves. But after a full evaluation, it wasn't his circulation and it wasn't his hormones. The real culprit? Something surprisingly simple: how he was sitting. Most older men don't realize it, but posture, especially during private moments, can directly affect nerve health in the pelvic region. You spend more time in recliners, on couches, or hunched forward in chairs. And over time, that seemingly harmless position can start compressing a key nerve you've probably never heard of, the pudendal nerve. This nerve controls sensation in the penis, perineum, and parts of the pelvic floor. And when it's repeatedly pinched or squeezed by poor sitting posture, especially during masturbation, you start to lose the very feeling you rely on. Less sensitivity, more tingling, occasional numbness, and eventually, discomfort that lingers long after the moment is over. Now here's the frustrating part. Most men don't trace it back to posture. They assume they're just getting older or that their desire is fading. But in reality, it could be something as basic as pressure on a nerve that wasn't meant to be sat on for hours every day. The fix, thankfully, is simple, but it starts with awareness. Don't masturbate while sitting slouched forward in a hard chair. Don't stay frozen in one position for long periods. Instead, lie down or recline with your spine supported and your hips relaxed. Put a small pillow under your knees to relieve tension on your lower back and open the pelvic space. And not just during private time. This matters throughout the day. Take breaks. Stretch. Stand. Walk. Let your nervous system breathe. Your comfort isn't just a luxury. At this stage of life, it's a form of protection. And remember, when sensation fades down there, it's not just about pleasure. It's about identity, masculinity, that quiet confidence that comes from feeling connected to your body. You don't have to live numb or assume it's just your age catching up. Sometimes, all it takes is a small adjustment to restore what you thought was lost. The way you sit, move, and care for your body. It all matters more now than ever. Risk number 6. Using masturbation as your only emotional outlet. He sat quietly across from me. Late 60s. Widowed. The kind of man who carried decades of wisdom in his voice and an ache in his chest he didn't know how to explain. I don't even think it's about sex anymore, he finally said. Some days I just feel empty. And when I do it, I stop feeling that way. Just for a little while. That moment stuck with me. Because he wasn't chasing pleasure. He was chasing relief. And that's something a lot of men over 60 silently go through. As life slows down, routines shrink, and the house feels quieter than it used to, self-pleasure can become more than just a physical act. It turns into an emotional escape, a way to fill time, a way to quiet the restlessness, the loneliness, or that strange feeling that something is missing, even when everything looks fine on the outside. Masturbation releases a mix of chemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, prolactin, the brain's natural cocktail of comfort. It makes you feel safe, calm, even cared for. And there's nothing wrong with that. Our bodies are wired to seek relief. But here's the quiet risk. When it becomes the only emotional outlet, when it's the main way you cope with stress, sadness, boredom, or anger, it can start to replace all the other ways you use to process those feelings. It's subtle. You might start skipping social plans, turning down calls, losing interest in things that used to light you up, because it's easier to retreat, release, and reset than it is to feel your feelings fully. But feelings aren't meant to be numbed forever. They're signals, and when you avoid them for too long, they don't go away, they just go deeper. That's why I always tell my patients, self-pleasure is not the enemy. Isolation is. You need an emotional toolbox, not just one tool. That might mean calling a friend more often, going for walks, journaling, joining a group, even if it feels awkward at first, talking to a counselor, creating something, expressing instead of suppressing. You don't have to cut out self-pleasure, but you do need to make room for other kinds of nourishment. Because real emotional strength doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from building resilience through connection, variety, and self-awareness. You're not weak for needing comfort. You're human, but you deserve more than momentary escape. You deserve release and purpose, solitude and support, pleasure and presence. The most masculine thing you can do isn't to shut down, it's to show up. For your life, for your emotions, and for yourself. Risk number 7, guilt or shame. He was 72, a retired pastor, gentle in his words, soft-spoken, the kind of man who had spent his life guiding others, but now sat quietly, avoiding my eyes. "Doc," he said, barely above a whisper. "I still do it sometimes, and afterward, I feel like I've done something wrong. I can't even look at myself in the mirror." That kind of shame isn't rare. In fact, it's one of the most common things I see, not in words, but in the silence between them. It's not just about the act. It's about everything he'd been taught to believe about the act. Many men over 60 grew up in households or communities where masturbation was framed as a sin, a weakness, something dirty. You were told it was wrong, that it made you less of a man, less spiritual, less worthy. And even if those voices faded, the guilt stayed. It stayed when you were 30. It stayed when you were 50. And now, at 70, it still sits like a shadow. Here's the truth. There is nothing shameful about touching your own body. Nothing weak about seeking comfort, pleasure, or emotional release. Especially in this phase of life, when intimacy can be rare and connection harder to come by. Your body didn't stop needing touch just because you turned 60. But chronic guilt? That has real consequences. Shame floods your system with stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline. Over time, it wears down your nervous system, disrupts your sleep, even lowers your testosterone. Not to mention what it does to your confidence, your ability to enjoy pleasure, or believe you even deserve it. And it doesn't end with you. Shame isolates. It builds walls and relationships. Makes you afraid to be seen. Afraid to open up, even to the people who love you most. But here's the part I want you to hear clearly. You're not broken. You're not bad. You're not too old to rewrite the script. You don't need to carry guilt for a human act of self-care. What you can do is begin shifting how you think about it. That might mean talking to a therapist, especially one who understands sexual wellness in older adults. Or it might just mean talking to yourself differently, choosing kindness instead of judgment. Instead of saying, "What's wrong with me?" try asking, "What am I needing right now? And how can I meet that need with care?" You are still a man, still deserving of comfort, connection, and the right to feel pleasure without punishment. Let go of the guilt you inherited. It doesn't belong to you anymore. What belongs to you is this moment and what you choose to believe moving forward. Risk number 8, pelvic congestion. He sat across from me, late 60s, healthy overall, but with a look of discomfort he couldn't quite describe. "Doc," he said, "it's not pain exactly. Just this dull, heavy ache, right down there. It's been around for weeks. Feels like pressure that won't go away." We'd already ruled out infections. His prostate was fine, but when I asked about his daily habits, especially how often he was ejaculating, everything clicked. After retirement, his days had slowed down. More free time, less structure. Like many men, he turned to masturbation, not out of lust, but out of routine. Something to pass the time. Something that helped him relax or sleep. Once a day turned into 2, sometimes 3. He didn't think it was a problem. After all, it was private. No one was getting hurt. But his body was telling him something different. What he was experiencing was something called pelvic congestion, a buildup of blood and pressure in the pelvic region caused by repeated stimulation without enough recovery time. It's not dangerous in the way a disease might be, but it is uncomfortable. Sometimes it feels like a heaviness in the testicles, sometimes a deep ache behind the pubic bone, or just a weird tension that doesn't quite go away. And here's why it matters more as we age. The systems that regulate blood flow, muscle contraction, and hormone release become more sensitive. That doesn't mean you're fragile. It just means your body is speaking more clearly, and it's time to start listening. The solution isn't to stop altogether. It's to create rhythm. Most men over 60 do best with spacing out their sessions. Maybe every few days. Enough time for blood vessels and nerves to reset, for tissues to calm, and for sensations to return stronger. Because yes, too much of a good thing can actually dull the pleasure it's meant to bring. The truth is, recovery is just as important as the act itself. And when you give your body that breathing space, something interesting happens. The dull ache fades, your energy returns, and even your emotional well-being improves. You start feeling more in control, more connected, more like yourself again. So if you've been dealing with that silent heaviness, the kind that doesn't show up in blood work, but still weighs you down, maybe it's not about stopping. Maybe it's about slowing down. Let your body reset. Let pleasure become something you look forward to, not something you feel the need to escape into. Because this part of your life isn't about restriction. It's about refinement. Doing things not just because you can, but because they feel right. Risk number 9, potential impact on semen quality. He walked into my office with a quiet kind of hope in his eyes. 61, newly remarried, still full of energy and warmth. His wife was younger, and they'd been trying to have a baby for 6 months. "We're still optimistic," he said with a smile. "But I wanted to check in and see if there's anything I might be missing." His blood work was good. Hormone levels looked fine. No major red flags on his health chart. But then I asked one question that turned the conversation. "How often are you ejaculating?" He paused. "Every day, sometimes more. It helps me unwind." And that's when I knew. He wasn't doing anything wrong, but he wasn't giving his body the chance to fully recover between releases. And at his age, that actually matters. You see, frequent ejaculation, while not harmful in general, can temporarily reduce semen quality, especially sperm concentration. And that becomes more important when you're actively trying to conceive. In your 20s, the body bounces back quickly. But in your 60s or 70s, sperm production naturally slows down. It's not a failure. It's just biology. And when ejaculation happens too often, your body doesn't always get the time it needs to rebuild the quantity and quality of sperm needed for optimal fertility. This doesn't mean you can't father children. In fact, many men do, even well into their 60s or 70s. But when you're actively trying, timing and recovery matter. Studies show that an abstinence period of 2 to 5 days before intercourse tends to result in higher sperm count and better motility, meaning stronger, more capable swimmers. It's not about giving up pleasure. It's about giving your body a chance to prepare. And more than that, it's about being intentional. This man wasn't chasing pleasure. He was chasing possibility, the chance to create life. And with just a few adjustments to his routine, that possibility became much more within reach. So if fatherhood is something still in your heart, or even just something you want to leave on the table as an option, know this: you're not too old, and your body is still capable. But you have to support it. That means spacing out your releases, supporting your health with good nutrition, movement, and sleep, and giving your body the respect it needs to perform at its best. Because whether you're trying for a child or not, there's power in understanding how your body works now, not how it worked at 25. And that understanding, that's how you move forward with confidence, clarity, and the ability to choose what matters most to you. Risk number 10, disconnection from reality. He was in his early 70s. Smart, calm, and deeply honest. It's not that I don't want intimacy anymore, he said. It's just that real life doesn't excite me the way it used to. I don't know when it happened. I just feel disconnected. That moment hit me hard, not because he was broken, but because what he described is something I've heard far too often, and something that can quietly affect any man without warning. He wasn't talking about erectile dysfunction. He wasn't talking about low testosterone. He was talking about something deeper, something quieter. He had trained his brain, without realizing it, to only respond to fantasy. It starts small. Maybe it's just a little stimulation to help you relax. Maybe it's something visual to spark arousal. But over time, your brain, especially the male brain, begins to adapt. It becomes wired for novelty, for intensity, for the endless stimulation of screens and curated content that doesn't exist in real life. And eventually, your brain forgets how to respond to anything else. Real touch, real scent, real connection. They begin to feel muted, less exciting, almost dull in comparison. That's not because your body is failing. It's because your brain has become overstimulated. And now, normal human interaction feels too slow, too gentle, too real. This is one of the most dangerous risks, not because it's visible, but because it changes how you feel about life itself. You might find yourself less interested in connecting with a partner. You might feel bored during moments that used to bring joy. You might start comparing others, even subconsciously, to a fantasy that never actually existed. But here's the part you need to hear most. This can be reversed. The brain is plastic. It can change. It can relearn. Start small. Take breaks from artificial stimulation, especially if you've noticed it's become a habit. Reconnect with your imagination. Reflect on old memories. Let desire build naturally, without needing it to be satisfied instantly. And most importantly, seek out real human connection. It doesn't have to be sexual. It can be emotional. A conversation. A shared moment. A gentle touch. Let yourself feel something authentic again. Because intimacy isn't just about pleasure, it's about presence. Being there. Being open. Being moved by something that actually exists in front of you. You are not too old to feel that again. You are not too far gone to return to something real. You're still a man with depth, emotion, and the capacity to connect, and that capacity never expires. The 7-second technique that changes everything. Now, I promised you something simple, just 7 seconds a day. Not a workout, not a supplement, but a natural, body-driven movement that helps reawaken blood flow, restore nerve signaling, and support firmer, more dependable erections. Let's get into it. I call this technique the pelvic power press, and it's something I've taught to men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, with surprising results. Here's how it works. Step 1. Find a quiet moment. Morning is best. You can be seated on the edge of your bed, feet flat on the floor, or lying flat with knees slightly bent. Make sure you're relaxed. No tension in your face, neck, or shoulders. Step 2. Take a deep breath in through your nose, and as you breathe out, gently contract your pelvic floor muscles. These are the same muscles you'd use to stop urination midstream. You'll feel a gentle lift at the base, like a flex deep inside. Not your abs, not your thighs, just that base. Step 3. Hold that gentle squeeze for 7 seconds. Then release. That's it. Don't overdo it. You don't need to strain or clench. Just a light, focused hold, like you're waking up a part of yourself that's been sleeping. Do this once a day to start. Just 7 seconds. As your awareness grows, you can repeat it 2 to 3 times per session. But the goal here isn't quantity, it's consistency. Because what this does over time is powerful. It improves blood flow to the pelvic region. It strengthens the muscles involved in erection and orgasm. It enhances nerve responsiveness. And most importantly, it reconnects your mind to the part of your body that may have felt ignored for too long. I've seen men go from frustration and numbness to feeling more alive, more confident, more in control, just by giving this part of their body some attention and care. And it's free. It's private. It's natural. You can do it anywhere. And it takes less time than brushing your teeth. So if you're ready to move forward, not with shame, not with stress, but with intention, this is where you start. Try it tomorrow morning. See how you feel. Because your vitality isn't gone. It's just waiting for you to show up again. You've got this. So now we've laid it all out. The 10 hidden risks that most men over 60 are never told about when it comes to masturbation. Not because the act itself is wrong. Not because it's shameful. But because how you do it, how often you do it, and why you do it, all matters so much more than anyone talks about. We talked about emotional drift, how it can slowly push you into isolation. We uncovered the physical risks like micro-tears, nerve compression, and pelvic congestion. We talked about how routines can numb your pleasure, mask deeper health issues, and even rewire your brain to disconnect from reality.